Well. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Nithin Ramachandra from the Nithin Sports Rush. I haven't been on the show for a while, but we're back with the special episode. And tonight, guys, is a big game of Game 1 NBA Finals of the New York Knicks and San Antonio Spurs. The rematch of the '93, rematch from back in the day. And why not to have a better guest on? His name is Trent Tucker. He won the championship in '93 with the Chicago Bulls, and he also played for the both teams that are playing in this finals, New York Knicks and San Antonio Spurs, and he does a lot of radio work now after his career, and he was a shooting guard throughout his career, and he put up some great numbers. He was a great player off the court, on the court. He was the bulldog on the court when you needed a big point or a big bucket. He was there contributing with the Bulls, New York Knicks, San Antonio Spurs, and like I said, he won the championship with the Bulls. And why not to get him on here and get ready for Game 1 of the NBA Finals. I want to give a big shout out to our friend MJ Perdon. She's amazing at what she does as a PR lady, and she helped set this up. So Trent, I just want to say thank you for joining. I know you're busy getting ready for Game 1 also, and I wanted to get you on here to learn more about your career and also talk about the series. But Trent, welcome to the show. Welcome to the family. And how are you and your family doing today?
Hey, thanks for having me. My family's doing very well, and thanks for asking also. So it's a fun time, especially for New Yorkers, to have their team, back in the NBA Finals since 1999. And I can just, imagine, how excited the city is at this stage.
Yeah. So we'll get to your. Obviously, you played with both teams. I want to get to your when you won the championship with the Chicago Bulls. Take us back to the 92-93 season, and obviously you won the championship, and that Chicago Bulls team was special. Just take us back to that, and what was it like for you to win the championship throughout your career?
I mean, it's amazing to be on a team that is good enough to have a chance to win a championship, and during those days in '92 and '93. I got a chance to not only play with the best team, but I got a chance to play with the best player, to see how he and his team prepared themselves every single day to get ready to make a run toward a championship. And when you join a team like that for the first time, you wondering, do I have what it takes to fit in, to make big plays, to be in big moments, to deliver and make big shots to help this team win in tough situations. And 1992 and 93 worked out very well for me. And, going to Chicago was a special place. Like I mentioned before, having a chance to play with the best player in the world, and Michael Jordan, was a treat indeed.
Yeah, and speaking of with the Chicago Bulls, speaking of Michael Jordan and being his right-hand man, and what was it like just to play with him, being his teammate, and obviously not only Michael Jordan, but you had a great roster of players, and obviously playing in Chicago. But just talk about being with Michael Jordan throughout that season.
Well, it's like being with a rock star. I mean, it's like if you're a music person back in the '60s, just imagine how big the Beatles were, and that was Michael Jordan. He was larger than life. And you talk about some of the teammates they had. Scottie Pippen was a great basketball player as well. B.J. Armstrong, John Paxson, Bill Cartwright, all those guys have been there for the first two championships, and now, they were open arms to welcome me in to join that team also. But being around Michael Jordan on a daily basis, I mean, it's hard to explain, unless you are lucky enough to be in that circle. It's because everywhere you go, you're going to have great attention looked up on you as well. But it was a special moment for my career, for sure.
And for yourself, what's extra special for you? You went to high school in Flint, Michigan, Flint Northwestern, and obviously you were born in North Carolina. But I want to get to Flint, Michigan, because a lot of talent from Michigan went to the NBA. So for you, what was it like being in Flint, Michigan, and playing high school ball in Flint, Michigan?
Well, there were so many good high school basketball players who came through the city of Flint. And as a kid growing up in Flint, one day you were just hoping to have a chance to play varsity basketball at one of the high schools in the city at that time. And as I continued to get better as a player, that vision became more focused, that one day I would have a chance to be a varsity basketball player at Flint Northwestern. But I knew that beyond that, I wanted something different. I wanted something bigger. I wanted to have a chance to play on a bigger stage, but I knew I had to put in extra work on a daily basis to give myself a chance to get there. And then I went on to the University of Minnesota after my high school days were over. And I knew that at that time, a lot of kids didn't leave Flint and go on to a bigger stage. And so I was one of the first ones to be in a position where I could open up that door for so many other young players to come behind me. And I'm so happy that I was able to step into that moment and keep those doors open for guys who follow behind me as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. And for you, when it came to playing basketball, I'm sure you played multiple sports, but what decided you to play to choose basketball?
Well, I played baseball as well, and I think that I may have been a better baseball player than basketball player. But growing up in the city of Flint with basketball being such a popular sport, when I got into my senior year, I knew I had to make a decision to choose one or the other. And I felt like at that stage, basketball was the right choice. And lucky for me, it worked out.
Yeah, so talk about your draft experience. You got drafted in '82, first round, 6 overall by the New York Knicks, and great franchise, obviously storied franchise. So talk about that draft experience and getting drafted by the Knicks.
Well, it was a dream come true. Every kid that's playing basketball or any playground or any junior high or high school or collegiate level is dreaming one day of playing basketball at the highest level. And I had a chance to live out that dream. And the day I was drafted by the New York Knicks, it was like, wow, I've arrived to a certain level, but now I still have to continue to work to stay here. Getting there is one thing, but staying there and trying to make a career and make a living as a professional athlete is a whole another thing. The pressure of dealing with so many different things that are coming at you on a daily basis. And just, recognizing and realizing that, how do I manage and handle all this stuff that comes with being a professional athlete, and let alone being in a city like New York City where there's so many different things for players to get into off the court. But I had good people around me. I had a great agent, who set the tone and kind of gave me some directions on the things I needed to do as I moved forward with my basketball career and off the court stuff. But the most important thing I think I learned during that stage, as a young professional athlete, I had to learn how to listen, because all of a sudden now you got this fame and fortune, and you think that you know everything, and nobody can tell you anything at this stage. But I was glad that I was able to set my ego to the side and allow someone, to deliver a message that was going to work for me for the long haul. So I was very lucky to have good people around me once I got into the NBA, and it allowed me to find the right road to travel.
Yeah, and speaking of obviously getting drafted and coming into your rookie season, you had head coach Hubie Brown. Talk about Hubie. What was it like learning from him in your first year with the Knicks?
He taught me a lot of things about the game that I know today. He was a very good basketball coach, a very good teacher, and he could be very demanding and very tough. But once you got beyond the bark, you could take a step back and realize that the message that he was delivering was the right one that was going to make you a better basketball player. So, all the things that I look at now inside the game and outside the game. I got a lot of information and a lot of messages from Hubie Brown to kind of shape my thought process on what pro basketball was all about.
Yeah, and for you, what was it like being part of New York Knicks history with players like Walt Clyde Frazier, Bernard King? You can go down the list. Obviously, Patrick Ewing. So talk about being part of that Knicks history back in the day and playing in the Garden. And what's that like to have your name part of that, being part of Knicks history?
Playing in Madison Square Garden is second to none. If you're lucky enough to be, a part of what that fabrication is all about, and the storied history of all the great players who came through there, and for you to have a chance to put on the Knicks jersey, it's very special. And for the guys who are playing, right now getting ready, to start this journey to see if they can win an NBA championship. It's a thrill of a lifetime for them. And I am so happy that these young players have put themselves and this team and this city in a situation where they can enjoy this excitement. And I know these young players are having the time of their life. And I'm just hoping that, they can find a way to win 4 more games to bring a championship back to New York City.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'm gonna switch this up a little bit. I'm gonna put you on the spot. You play with 3 great franchises in the Knicks, Spurs, and Bulls. So I'm gonna ask you, who has the best fan base, the Bulls, the Spurs, or the Knicks when you were playing?
Like I said, there's nothing like Madison Square Garden. Madison Square Garden is the Mecca of basketball, and I think any player, whether they have a chance to play there or come in as a visitor, will tell you that there's no place like Madison Square Garden.
Mm-hmm. And also another thing that's interesting here, you were part of the first ever 3-point shootout in 1986, and you beat out Greg Hodges, but the eventual winner was Larry Bird. But talk about that moment, being part of the first ever 3-point shootout.
It was fun to be a part of that because there was so many great shooters in the league, and now that this event had become a part of the All-Star Weekend, and to see the guys who you were competing against. But also you got a chance to know them, outside of basketball, because you spend some moments with them in the locker room. And during the season, you never have a chance to sit down and chat with a Larry Bird or Craig Hodges because they're on different teams. And being a part of that weekend where you had those moments in the locker room where you could get to know them a little bit differently from just being basketball players, that was a special moment also.
Yeah. And also being in Madison Square Garden, just being on that court, and just talk about some of your best moments with the Knicks. I'm sure you had a lot of great moments. You spent like 9 years with New York before going to San Antonio, but just talk about like your best moments at the Garden, and also when you guys were taking the road trips. Just talk about the commodity between you guys during road trips too.
Well, there's been so many good team moments, and to hear, the crowd rise to their feet and to hear the roar when someone makes a big play in a big moment, and to feel that excitement inside of Madison Square Garden, you don't get that feeling anywhere else. And like you've talked about me being, lucky enough to be a part of the Knicks organization, for 9 years. It was a wonderful ride because I had a chance to play with so many good players, and to play in front of those fans for 9 years was a treat indeed.
Yeah, and what was it like the commodity and like the group the what was it like for you guys when you were traveling on the road trips, and just talk about the chemistry when you guys were traveling on the road.
Well, that's when you have a chance to bond. When you're away from home, and it's pretty much you guys are together morning, noon, and night, and you get a chance to know your teammates even better off the court. You find some more personal things about them that you didn't know before. But also is how you build trust among each other. And you see how guys are willing to come together and how they prepare themselves, not only to get themselves in a position to win, but to put their teammates in a situation where they can be successful as well. And you find out that, that this is a moment where we all have to be unselfish. We have to be willing to sacrifice for the other guy that we're playing with, because it's up to me to do my part. Whatever my role is at this time on the team, I have to make sure that I am prepared to do it to my very best so that I can give my teammates a chance to be successful as well.
And after the '92 season, you go to the San Antonio Spurs, where they had Coach Larry Brown and obviously Rod Strickland, Sean Elliott, another great team with great players. And just talk about the transition from New York to San Antonio. But you didn't miss a beat when it came to a great head coach and obviously another great team.
Well, I was going to a team that had some very talented players, as you just mentioned. Rod Strickland was a teammate of mine in New York, and there was a guy Terry Cummins and Sean Elliott and David
Yeah.
Robinson. Some very very talented NBA players who had wonderful careers also. But that was the first time I got a chance to meet Gregg Popovich because he was an
Yeah.
assistant coach at that stage, and he and I kind of developed a relationship from there. And once he became the head coach and general manager of the San Antonio Spurs, he really put
Yeah.
that organization on the map. And he's one of the all-time great coaches in the history of the game. So when you talk about how my career, has worked out over a 11 or 12-year span, I was able and lucky enough to play for three great franchises. And going to Chicago, it was the ultimate because now I had a chance to win a championship. But I
Yeah.
felt like in the other two places I played also, we were good enough to win a championship as well. But as I mentioned before, once a Nick, always a Nick.
Yep. There you go. Hey, I like what you're saying there. I like what you're saying there, and obviously that's the team that drafted you, and usually most players stick by the team that drafts them in the beginning of their career. And speaking of Greg Popovich, man, what a special career he had. Obviously, long tenured with the Spurs, and let's talk about what was it like seeing him develop as assistant coach, and like you said, being the GM and also coach throughout the years, and seeing the success, the consistent success of them of him putting a great team and then winning championships. And now you see Mitch Johnson taking over for Greg Popovich and being in the finals the first year as a head coach. And just talk about the Spurs run recently.
When I got to San Antonio, I had a chance, to sit down and talk with Coach Pop, and I could tell just from the short time that I was there, that he was someone that if he got the chance to be a head coach, he was going to do a wonderful job. No one can ever envision or imagine that a person is going to have the type of success that he had. But you knew he had all the tools to be a great basketball coach. Great work ethic, understanding the game very well. He was also in a good position to draft some very good players and some talented players, Hall of Famers. But when you have that type of talent, you need a guy who understands how to put it together. And that's what Coach Pop was always good about. Understanding how to put the players in the right position at the right time where they could be successful. But also it doesn't hurt when you have a guy like Tim Duncan.
Mm.
And and it's hard to get superstar players like that, to buy in and to fit into the club and to be coachable and to be coached very hard. And Coach Pop, he had that. He had that ability, to reach that superstar player to help him understand that if he's doing it the right way, then it becomes a whole lot easier for me as a head coach to coach the rest of the players and get them to fall in line. And he had, and Coach Pop has a great ability to communicate. And I think the most important thing about a great coach is understanding how to look at the talent. Most coaches have their own philosophy, but when the talent is a little bit different than what you would like it to be, do you have the ability as a leader to put them in a situation or put them in a system where they can be successful? And Gregg Popovich could do that as well as anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I agree with you 100%. And it seems like the Spurs hasn't lost a beat with Popovich now retired, but now Mitch Johnson taking over, and you see the talent on the Spurs with Dylan Harper and Wemby and all, and he's taking right over. I mean, first year unbelievable, bringing them to the finals. And but for you, talk about. I'm gonna make this another fun question. Who was the toughest player you had to defend in your career?
Right. I mean that's not a hard question to answer. Number 23 in Chicago, Michael Jordan. he the first time I saw him come into the league, and I got in. We were playing them in the exhibition game,
Hmm.
and I saw some of the things that he was doing at that stage. I was like, wow. I mean, I said, this young man here has a chance, to be a really great player. But as the years went along, after year 2 or 3, and you get even a closer look at number 23, and you say, this guy easily could be the greatest basketball player to ever play. And he was, it was fun to play against him, but it was even better to play with him. Is because being in the same practice facility every single day, with someone with that mindset and that ability, and to see how they operated to get themselves prepared, to make a run toward a championship. That's a special moment for any player to be in. It's because, people say it's hard to play, with great players. I say the only reason it's hard to play with great players is because if you're not ready for the spotlight, then it's hard to play with them because they're going to put you in the spotlight. And at some point in time, the further they go throughout a playoff run, you're going to be in a position where you may have to make a big shot or make a big play. And that's what playing with great players bring on a daily basis. They bring that type of pressure. So for an 82-game campaign, every day at practice, you have to be prepared. You have to work hard. You have to stay ready because at some point in time, that great player is going to put you in that moment. And you have to be ready to step up and deliver and make that shot so that the team can win. It was, for me, it was a wonderful opportunity and a great opportunity to have a chance to play with someone like Michael Jordan.
And yeah, for you, and speaking of having the right mindset, for you, what was your mindset? Obviously, getting ready for a game and what was your routine for that?
Well, just making sure that I did all the things that I normally do on a daily basis. And most professional athletes are very superstitious. Everything has to be consistent. Your food has to be consistent. Your rest time has to be consistent. What time do I leave home to get into my car to drive to the arena? What routes do I take? So everything is consistent on a daily basis. And when you're prepared, you're not afraid to go into any battle. It's when you're unprepared and unsure if you haven't done all the work that you need to do, that's when you begin to doubt yourself. And for a long career like I had, being fortunate enough to play 11 years of pro basketball, it was all about consistency. And when I talk
Yeah.
to young players and young kids today about the game of basketball or any other sport, I said you have to be consistent with your habits on a daily basis. And that's a very difficult thing to do, is to ask someone to become mundane and do the same things over and over and over again. But that's what it takes to be successful.
Yeah, and speaking of the young talent now, talk about the transition from when you guys were playing to now today's NBA with a lot of European players coming here, and a lot of great talent from overseas. And now you see like Wemby, Jalen Brunson, all these young talent coming in. So talk about the transition from today's NBA from when you were playing.
Well, the game is different for sure, especially for the big man.
Yeah,
Back in my days, 7-footers played with their backs to the basket. They were low post players. Now you have guys who are 7 foot tall, 7'5", like Wemby, who have guard like skills. They can step out and take you off the dribble. They can shoot mid range pull up jump shots. They can shoot the 3-point shot. So the game has changed dramatically in terms of how the big men are used today. And it's forcing, the American-born players now to become more skilled. As you mentioned, with the influx of European players coming into the game, the style is different. So it's forcing, I think, the AAU coaches in America now to adjust their thinking and their teaching to make sure that these players are ready for the next generation of what the NBA is going to look like.
Yeah, well said there. And talk about now these two teams in the finals and the Spurs. No one expected the Spurs to be here. I thought OKC would come back to the championship. But just talk about your two former teams now in the finals, and it must be extra special for you because you played with both teams. And just talk about what's it like to see both of them now back in here for a rematch, and just talk about for both teams what they need to do to win the championship, especially for the Knicks, who's trying to do something special here for the city of New York, and also the Spurs too.
Well, both teams and both organizations, this year have really, put themselves in great situations, in a great situation to be in this moment. We always talk about the best two players, Jalen Brunson for the Knicks, Victor Wembanyama for the San Antonio Spurs. But it's all about their supporting cast. And if you look at how San Antonio has defended the last two great players they faced in Anthony Edwards and SGA from Oklahoma City, they've run a double team. They've run two guys at them, trying to force the ball out of their hands, make them more of a passer than a scorer. And so now this is where the supporting cast comes into play. These guys have to be ready for the moment to step into these positions to make shots. And I think for the Knicks to be successful, Karl Anthony Towns is going to have to play a major role. Is because he's going to be the one guy, with this outside shooting ability that can bring Victor Wembanyama out of the middle. And if he can do that consistently, now that's going to open up driving lanes for guys like Jalen Brunson and some of the wing players. So this is how you're going to have to attack San Antonio. The bench has to continue to play well for the Knicks. They've done a great job so far throughout this playoff run. And also Josh Hart, he's going to have some open shots. And he's going to have to, to show the confidence to step up and knock them down. And if his shot is not going in at a certain time, the one thing he cannot afford to do is to run away from the shot. If the offense provides a good shot for him, he has to step up and take it and believe that he can knock it down. So there are going to be some different things that the Knicks are going to have to do from an overall team standpoint to beat San Antonio, which is very, very good and very well coached. And for the Spurs, their guards are going to have to make shots as well, because I believe that Mike Brown and the Knicks are going to try to design something to take Wemby out of the game as much as they can. And let's see if those perimeter guys can continue to knock down shots for the San Antonio Spurs. I think they have an advantage from a guard standpoint is because they're very aggressive. And that means that, they can make hustle plays. They can get those second and third chances because most of those guys are very good offensive rebounders. And you don't see guards so much going to the offensive glass, and those guys do a very good job of doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So before we get to your predictions, how often do you get back to New York and back to San Antonio to watch your two former teams? Chicago. Yeah.
I haven't been to San Antonio or Chicago in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I like to come back to New York as often as I can, but my family schedule now, dictates that I have to, stay in the Minneapolis area as much as I can, because I have two sons who are 15 and 16 at this stage, and they both play hockey. They're not basketball players; they're hockey players. So I had to learn a whole new sport about 5, 6, or 7 years ago to get myself prepared to help them grow as hockey players. And with the hockey schedule, they're traveling all over not just the state, but all over the country playing hockey as well. So that forces me now, not to have the opportunity to get back to those three cities to watch basketball at the highest level, is because family time now is taking over.
What's the scouting report on both of your sons as a hockey player?
Well, I would say this. They have a chance, and they have worked very hard to put themselves, in the highest level at the age groups that they can play at this stage, and And I tell them all the time, based on what I did as a professional athlete, the most important thing is consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Once you create certain habits, they have to be consistently good every day. Now, there's so many talented players around the world that you're going to face. If as long as you do the work and you're prepared, with your habits on a daily basis, you're going to be okay. And I say, just enjoy the game, have fun with the game, don't rush it, let the process take its place, and then things will work out from there.
Yeah, and speaking of after your career, you've been doing a lot of television appearances. Obviously, you were on Newsmax recently, and what's it like? What's it been like for you to make those appearances and talk about your journey, your career, and obviously talk about today's game? And what's that been like for you just to make each appearances on different shows?
It's a lot of fun because I enjoy the game. I like to communicate and talk about the game. But at this stage, especially right now, is having the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
so that allows me to have a chance to be on shows like this and to be a part of broadcast and analysis and communicate and talk about the game is because when the Knicks are doing well, it allows, some of us old guys to have a chance to be a part of this as well.
Okay, I have another fun question for you. I don't know if you saw this post a couple of days. I think it was last week or a couple of days ago, someone made a flyer. The question is, who would you sit with a celebrity who's a big Knicks fan? Who would you sit with for a finals game? And it brought up Ben Stiller, Steve Sherpa, and all those celebrities. So I'm going to ask you, if you had to sit with one Knicks celebrity, who would it be and why?
Probably John McEnroe
Look.
is because, after my career was over, I really got into playing tennis,
Hmm.
and I got to know John McEnroe a little bit. So I think if I had to sit with one Knicks celebrity for one game at Madison Square Garden, it might be John McEnroe.
Ooh, interesting.
Or
And
if I could add one more,
yeah,
it probably would be Mark Messier.
Mark Messier. Okay, there you
Yeah,
go.
it's because now that my kids play hockey, it would
Right.
be great. It'd be great for me to kind of sit there during timeouts to pick his brain about some of the
Hmm.
things that my kids could do to become a better hockey players, and also for me to learn the game, see how I could help them as well. Now that I've become a big hockey fan, also when you talk about some of the greatest hockey players to ever play, to me, Mark Messier's name is right there at the top.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's Mark Messier, and then obviously you can make a case for Wayne Gretzky,
But
another
Wayne
legend,
Gretzky
and
is the best. Wayne
yeah.
Gretzky is definitely the best. But I had a chance to watch the New York Islanders play. When they were in their heyday, and to me, Mike Bossy was as good as anybody. To ever put on a pair of skates, and you know, I like the Sidney Crosbys, and I got a chance. I didn't get a
Yeah.
chance to see the Bobby Orrs play, but I got a chance to read about them. I get a chance to watch Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid. So probably in my household now, I'm watching as much professional hockey as I do watching pro basketball, just because my kids participate in the sport.
Yeah. Couple more before we get to the predictions. Speaking of the Knicks fans, you played obviously in front of the Knicks fans, and how special is it for you to see the Knicks fans travel to, for example, Cleveland. They traveled to the Sixers Stadium to Cleveland, and now they're going to be traveling to San Antonio, I believe, most likely. And you're going to see all the celebrities like Timothy Chalamet. He never misses a Knicks game. And obviously Marbury, Latrell Sprewell's there, Larry Johnson. You got all the what's that like to see that everybody as a collective group and all the Knicks fans and all the celebrities coming together and traveling for this playoff run?
Well, the beauty of sports, and the one thing I admire about the game of sport is that it brings us all together.
Mhm.
And when we talk about, having a common bond and the things you just mentioned about, all the alumni coming back to Madison Square Garden, the fans traveling to support this team. See, the beauty of sport to me, it breaks down all the barriers. Because
Mhm.
when I turn to my left or turn to my right, and the man or the woman who was sitting next to me, or the young kids who were sitting next to me, at this stage, they don't care where I'm from. They don't care what I look like. They don't care what my beliefs are. They're just looking at me as a person and as a Knicks fan. And to me, that is the beauty of what this game brings to all of us. It gives us a
Mhm.
chance to look at each other for who we are. No judgments. We're just happy that today that we're all Knicks fans. So if we could
Right.
take that into the rest of the world, just imagine how much better this world would be for all of us to live in. And that's why the Olympics are so great. It has a chance to
Yeah.
bring a nation together. And when people say that sports don't matter, sports do matter, because
Yeah.
what you and I are talking about right now is the enjoyment to see how the Knicks fans and the alumni and all the people in New York City are embracing this moment. And sports brings us all together. And so if there's one thing that we can learn from the game of sport is togetherness. And that's what sports is all about.
Yeah. I can't forget about Spike Lee and Tracy Morgan, especially Spike Lee. He's been
Yeah.
he's
And,
been there
Sp-
thin and out.
and Spike's been there from day one, and he's a huge Knicks
Yeah.
fan. But is for me, sports has given me a chance, to connect and to meet
Mhm.
people from all over the world. And it has taught me how to be unselfish. It has taught me how not to judge, but to sit down and listen and hear a different message for the first time. Is
Right.
because you might be from a different part of the world, but it doesn't mean that you and I are that far off in terms of our thought process and our thinking. So I have to be willing to open up my mind to listen to a different message. And when we
Right.
all can take a step back and listen more so than talking, that's how we grow as people. And today, what the beauty of sports has done for me, it has given you and I a chance to have a conversation today.
Yep. But well said. I agree with you 100%. And let me tell you this: if the Knicks win the championship this year, it's going to be extra special because in July you have obviously the World Cup coming here soon. You're in
Mm-hmm.
MetLife Stadium. You got Yankees Dodgers in July. You got Fanatics Fest again coming. You got John Bon Jovi performing in New York. July is going to be crazy, and it's going to be even crazier if the Knicks win the championship this year. And that's good. That's when everybody's going to come together even more. And this is what's so special about it, especially for the Knicks. And the Knicks this run has been amazing. Obviously with Mike Brown and what an unbelievable another new first time head coach now with the Knicks. Obviously taking them to the finals, but Mike Brown has been a proven winner. When they hired him, I love the hire. Everybody was criticizing it, but he's proving everybody wrong. He's a winner. He came from Cleveland, Sacramento, Golden State, Lakers, so he knows how to win games. And and Leon Rose. Shout out to Leon Rose. He put this thing together and rolled
Mm-hmm.
Wise West, and I
Well,
think hiring Mike is the perfect fit. So
well, leadership is hard. It's tough,
mhm.
and there are some days where you're going to have to make difficult decisions. But that's what good leaders are all about. And being under the pressure cooker of playing in New York City or coaching in New York City or being in management in New York City, it's very hard. And because eyeballs are on you 7 days a week, the media coverage can be very, very harsh at times. But if you are prepared and you do the work that you're supposed to do every single day, then New York City becomes the place that you want to be. Because, like I mentioned before, there's nothing like New York City, and there's nothing like Madison Square Garden. And for this management group, along with these players, they have a chance to put themselves in a situation where they can be endured by the New York City fans for the rest of their lives. But also, it'd be great, for the fans of New York City to have a championship as well. So I'm gonna give you my prediction even before you ask me.
Yes. Yes.
I'm, like I said, once a Knick, always a Knick, and I would be absolutely thrilled if the New York Knicks can pull this off. It would be a special moment, to see this city, have a chance to celebrate a championship, but for all these players, to be heroes forever.
Do you think? Do you think it's go 6 or 7 or 5 or?
I don't know. It's hard for me to predict, but I would say this: if the Knicks have to go back to San Antonio and win a game 7, and if they win by 1 point, that to me would be worth it. That would be the icing on the cake.
Okay.
That would be the icing on the cake.
Wow. Well, well said. One final thing here. I know you're focused on your family, but down the line, if the right opportunity comes, would you consider being a coach?
Well, I've always thought about it, and the coaching fraternity is very hard to get into. It's because of the relationships that head coaches have created with some of the assistant coaches have been built for a very long time. And I've never had that connection once I left the game. But if the right opportunity came once my kids get a little bit older now and they can move on and do their own thing, and it frees up my time to look at to see what the next journey of my life could look like, then coaching could be on the horizon for me. Yes.
Well, man, there you have it. Trent Tucker, NBA champion from the Chicago Bulls and played for the Knicks and the Spurs. Man, and tonight is going to be a special night, especially for the Knicks and obviously the Spurs, and an extra special for Trent because he played with both teams. So, guys, tonight is game 1, and wherever you guys are, please be safe with all the watch parties going on in New York and New Jersey area. Please be safe. And Trent, I just want to say thank you again, and I want to give a big shout out to MJ, our friend MJ. She's the best, and you're the best, and I got to learn a lot more about you, and obviously you had a great career. You played with some great players, and you learned a lot from this game, and now good luck to your sons as they continue their hockey journeys, and we'll obviously stay connected, and let's go Knicks. That's the reason why I'm wearing orange, so let's go Knicks, and good luck. Yeah, and thank you, Trent, and wherever you guys are watching the game, stay safe also, but thank you again. This has been awesome.